Go ahead and take out your notebooks. We're going to pick up from where we left off when I saw you guys last time. Now, I do need to explain a couple of things, because when I saw you guys last time, I had to kind of end the story halfway through, because I want to be certain that, chronologically speaking, we're still in line. So I'm going to have to finish what goes on when the Germans invade Russia and when they take Stalingrad, or when they attempt to take Stalingrad in the future. But what we're going to have to do today, again, for chronology purposes, we're going to have to shift away from what's going on in Russia, and we're going to take a look at the first step to American involvement. We're going to look at our situation, and we say, you know what? Problem number one is not the Japanese. So I'm sorry, all of you were wrong. They're on the bottom of the list. The American High Command says problem number one is what's taking place in Europe. We need to neutralize the Germans and the Italians first. They're threat number one. Japan is threat number two. Now, I'll be perfectly honest. All you guys said Japan. I hear you. And you guys made some good points where you say, like, we're the only ones in the Pacific. We're the only ones that can stop them. We can lean on the Brits and the Russians. You're right. But what the American High Command says is, look, we have limited resources. We have to shift them to where it's most necessary. We're going to fight Japan at the same time we're fighting in Europe. But the Germans and the Italians are problem number one. Now, where do we launch our first assault? What the American High Command is looking at here is they say, you know, of course, eventually we have to get to Germany. But that's too difficult right now. We need a different option. They start looking at the map and they say, I think we have a pretty good option in German-occupied North Africa. Now, I want to do this real fast. Why do you think North Africa? Is it really like going at the heart of Fortress Europe? No. It's a different option. Now, at this time, the Americans, the Brits, and the Russians are allied together. It's a very strange alliance because we have the Americans and the Brits that are republics, they're democracies. And you have on the other side Stalin, a totalitarian communist dictator. Does that sound like a normal kind of alliance? No. We know what Stalin's done. We know he's a monster. But there is something that holds us together. What allies those three together? A common enemy. That's it. And when asked about it, Winston Churchill said, a reporter was saying, you know what Stalin's done. You know he's a mass murderer. Why are you aligning yourself with him? And Churchill said, look, if Hitler invaded hell, I'd align myself with the devil. Let's go. That's where he stands. We have a common enemy, and that's it. So here's Stalin being invaded. The Germans are basically right here, and he tells Roosevelt and Churchill, I need you to open up a second front. I need you to invade Western Europe. I need you to take some of the pressure off of me. And Churchill and Roosevelt say, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. We're not ready yet. Now, I'll throw something out there. I don't know if this is true or not, but it sure makes a lot of sense. Do you think Roosevelt and Churchill are okay with the idea of Nazis and communists killing each other?
Yes.
The more dead Nazis and communists there are, the better the world is. So maybe they delay, but that might be a conspiracy theory. I don't know. What Churchill and Roosevelt say is the better way to go about this, instead of assaulting Fortress Europe, where it would just be slaughter, and we'd never get the numbers or the material back, we need to find a way around Fortress Europe. We need to find a way to hit the weak points and still have some success. We need to hit what they call the soft underbelly of Fortress Europe. Now, I always use this kind of little analogy, and this is what they envision. What they think is France, heavily fortified. You guys were right. The Germans put a lot of resources there. They're going to basically protect Europe as if it's like a turtle. The hard shells on top and the soft underbellies underneath. The Germans don't put a whole lot of resources in North Africa because they think it'll be too hard of an invasion. And they're not wrong. North Africa is the Sahara Desert. If you've ever been to the Sahara Desert, it's a terrible place to be. It's a desert the size of the United States. And what Hitler believes is the Allies have no business being there. They don't want to fight in North Africa. But just in case, we're going to put just enough resources there. So I'll tell you, what the Western Allies decide in invading North Africa is not a bad idea. It is the weak point. It is the soft underbelly. This is probably where they should go. Now I need to ask this question. Is Stalin pleased about them invading North Africa? Yes. Probably not. He wants a frontal assault against Fortress Europe. Have Hitler pull resources out of the Soviet Union and send them west. But is this at least something? Yeah. Is Stalin mildly happy? Yeah, kind of, sort of. So we have this weird alliance moving forwards. Stalin's somewhat happy. We're hitting what we think is the right spot, but there is going to be a big problem about North Africa. Hitler's going to see kind of the weakness of this. He understands that they can't put a lot of resources there, so he needs to be smart about it. In order to protect North Africa, he sends probably his most capable general. Now, we're going to talk about him more going forward because he's going to be a key player throughout the rest of the war. What Hitler believes, and again, probably correctly so, is that if we don't protect North Africa, that's the launching point against Italy. We need to protect North Africa because if the Allies take North Africa, now they have a launching point into Sicily, into Italy proper. We need to be certain we protect the Italians. Now, we kind of talked about this during World War I. Do you remember what the Germans equated the Austro-Hungarians to? Remember I told you that little story? What was that, sorry? Not exactly. What they said in World War I was the Austro-Hungarian Empire is like being handcuffed to a corpse. They just weigh us down. The Italians are kind of similar. The Italians are really good at beating up on opponents that are fantastically inferior. During the war, the Italians invaded Ethiopia and had a great deal of success. But when they are faced up against an opponent that's at least equal to them, they fold, and they fold quickly. In fact, Hitler has Mussolini with him, and he says, you guys are really bad at this. You make a lot of mistakes. And Mussolini just told him, yeah, but I'm your ally. So if you don't want us to fall, you better bail us out. Hitler's going to send thousands and thousands of troops to Italy to bolster Mussolini. Like I said, he's not very good at this stuff. But he is pretty clever about how to use the Germans. Now, with that said, I want to again think about North Africa. It's the deserts. It's hot. It's dry. It's a very different theater than what's taking place in Europe. So Hitler's going to send his most capable commander. He's going to send General Rommel to the desert. And he basically says, you're in charge. You're the one that's going to run this effort. And Rommel is very, very clever. He is a fantastic military mind. And what he does in North Africa is pretty sharp. with the resources he has. He earns the nickname the Desert Fox. He basically takes all of North Africa in a handful of months. When the Allies land, though, he has some problems. What Rommel has in the desert is he has these big, fat, heavy tanks. Now, I'll just go ahead and throw this out there. Does anyone see a potential problem with a big, fat, heavy tank on sand?
It's gonna sink.
It doesn't really move that well. It can. I mean, it's not going to just sink into the sand, but it's real slow and real clumsy. The Allies have a much better idea. They send a lot faster, a lot smaller, and a lot lighter tanks. Now, this is a good idea. This is the way you should do it. So what Rommel says to Hitler, you sent me the wrong tanks. I need something different. You better hurry up and send them. What do you think Hitler tells him when he says, I need new tanks here in North Africa?
No.
Deal with it.
I can't send you those resources. I have way more important things. So figure it out. Well, unfortunately for Rommel, he can't. He just doesn't have the right material. What we're going to see in North Africa is the Allies actually push the Germans back considerably. And they do it pretty fast, because Rommel just simply can't keep up with these fast, smaller tanks. So he's got to fall back, and keep falling back, and keep falling back. And he gets to basically the edge of Algeria, and he tells Hitler, I told you, I don't have the right tanks. Get me the resources I need. And Hitler just tells him, if you were any other general, you'd be dead already. But because I need you, I'm pulling you out of North Africa. You're coming back to Germany. Now, I will tell you, what Rommel thinks is he's probably in for what most generals are when Hitler calls him back. Yeah, he's probably going to die. Hitler greets him and he says, you're very lucky you're as smart as you are. I'm going to reassign you. You're going to France. Now, we'll talk about what he does in France a little bit later on, but now that the Allies control North Africa, now they have a foothold. They can now use North Africa as a way to invade Fortress Europe from the soft underbelly. We need an amphibious invasion from Africa onto Sicily into Italy proper. But amphibious invasions are hard. There's a lot of moving parts. You need to transport across the sea men, material, armor, everything they need. And you better hope it doesn't sink. Because if it sinks, you're in a lot of trouble. Then once they do get to the beach, now you got different problems. Now you have the sea at your back, and the only way you can go is forward. I will tell you from stories I've heard, it's a weird situation because you can't go backwards. The only way you can go is forwards. So you better fight hard, or they're going to push you back into the ocean. What we're going to see when the Allies land in Sicily is there are a lot of Sicilians that are getting real sick and tired of Mussolini. They're getting real sick and tired of this war effort, that they're really not good at fighting. When the Americans and the Brits land in Sicily, the Italian army basically collapses. We take Sicily in a handful of weeks. Now it's on to Italy proper. We're going to use Sicily as our new launching point. Again, amphibious invasion, land in Italy. We have our sights on one of the pillars of the Axis powers. It's time to move on Italy. We invade from Sicily, move on Italy itself, and when we get to Italy, we find the same thing. Mussolini's kind of losing control here. A lot of the Italians are looking at the Americans and the Brits not as invaders, as liberators. We're so glad you're here. Now it's at this point where Hitler can